like rock being molded by the tide.
He's changing.
First,
He's changing.
from endless stress, his hair falls out. His skin goes pale from the lack of sun. His body becomes thin and wiry from
He's turned into
starvation and malnourishment. The endless
SCP-096.
physical strain even warps his limbs. His arms and legs begin to stretch, his body becoming elongated and grotesque.
Ugh.
All the way through this horrific, dehumanizing ordeal.
Alright, this one's SCP-096 Sad Origin Story. This one's requested by Roman Hardware. And I don't know if this is canon. It's animated, so most likely not, but we'll figure it out. Also, this one's by Dr. Bob. Alright, let's start.
Hello everyone, Dr.
Hello,
Bob
Dr.
here.
Bob.
I know you're not used to seeing me here at the start of videos, but that's because today we have an extremely pressing matter to attend to. One
Okay,
that cuts to
let's
the
see.
deepest core of one of the SCP Foundation's deadliest contained anomalies.
This guy, oh yeah, the shy guy. 096 is the shy guy.
The Shy Guy. It's a creature that needs no introduction, because it probably haunts all of your nightmares already.
You can introduce
Close
it.
your eyes and picture it in your mind's eye. That gaunt face with the slack jaw and the
if you're
lifeless
new
white
here,
eyes.
pretty much
you
this
hope
guy,
never to see as long as you live.
you're not allowed
The
to
pale
look
skin
at him,
pulled tight against
or he'll
the bone.
attack you.
Those impossibly long, gangly limbs.
Yeah, that looks
It
disgusting.
sits there in its airtight containment cube, covering its face and quietly sobbing, always sobbing, as though cursing something beyond even its own understanding. Perhaps, when thinking about SCP-096, you feel a
Disgusting.
pang of sympathy mixed with the terror. After all, this anomaly is no sadist. Why would a sadist cry as it kills, like SCP-096 does? You're not alone in asking this question. I've spent many a night poring over classified files with an ever-freshening pot of coffee, trying to piece together the answers. SCP-096 is considered one of the most dangerous Euclid-class
Euclid.
creatures in containment, and yet, so little about it is known beyond its capability
It's like
to
for
do
this
great
guy,
harm whenever someone
you can
is
literally
unlucky
lock him
enough to
up
see
as
its
long as
face and
nobody
send
looks
it
at
into
him.
its rage state. How did this
That
happen?
includes like
It's a question for the
videos,
curious,
pictures.
like you or me. And after
can't look
months
at
of
his-
strenuous
you
research,
cannot look at
I
his
believe
pictures.
I may have an answer. Whether you choose to believe it is up to you. Just be warned when you hear what I believe to be the heartbreaking, tragic origin of this terrifying and pitiful monster. you
Damn,
may
how
never
long
be
is this
able to
intro,
look at him
man?
the
Let's
same way
start.
again. Not that looking at him should ever be high on your list of priorities. It begins in a tavern in a small Nepalese
You can't
village
see
a
his
few miles
face,
away
bro.
from the Chinese border, where Mount Everest, the world's tallest mountain above sea level, waits. Its mere existence is like
What
a
if
challenge to
we
the brave
freeze
and
this
foolhardy.
guy?
Conquer me, it seems to whisper. Conquer me, and declare yourself above all those I have conquered. Become a god among men.
Wait,
It's always whispering like this, but few, in the grand scheme of things, can actually hear it. And sadly
Is the
for him,
mountain
the explorer
an
is
SCP
among
also?
those few. He's sitting in one of the tavern's many cozy nooks, picking away at a plate of mutton curry while sipping from a brass bowl of white
Mutton
chiang,
curry.
a popular local drink. The explorer, living up to his name, has come a long way to get here. The rest of the village locals in the tavern eye him with a variety of knowing glances. They've seen
he
so
looks
many
like a
him
hater, bro.
before, smug smiles and puffed chests.
That's
Thinking
another
they'll
hater
be
right
able to
there.
count themselves among the exalted few who've conquered the mountain to end all mountains. The bodies of many men like this are still frozen to the
wait,
mountain's
which mountain
surface.
is this? Is this Mount
One
Everest?
brave local,
I was not
an
paying
older man who
attention.
can speak English fluently, slides in across the table from the explorer. The old-timer tells him that whatever he thinks he'll find up on the mountain, honor, glory, recognition, he'd be better off searching for it elsewhere. Death awaits on the icy rocks above. The explorer, young, fit, and still feeling mighty smug, replies that death is there for the people who haven't worked hard enough, who haven't prepared. He's
I
scaled
don't
other
know,
mountains
man.
before, all across the globe, from Scotland to Peru.
I think you should
Everest would hold no surprises
listen
for
to
him,
the dude,
just a
the
new,
old dude.
compelling challenge. The old man is, as you could probably imagine, unamused by the explorer's hubris. All confidence and bluster now, he says with his thin, raspy voice. But what will you say when you're face to face with the king?
with the
Explorer,
king.
assuming
Who's
that
the
this
king?
refers to the mountain itself, smiles and replies, I'll ask him for his crown. With that, the old man leaves, content that he at least tried to dissuade the explorer from going on this doomed journey.
Yeah, he's dead.
If nothing else, his conscience
done,
would be
bro.
clear now. He had done all that he possibly could. The explorer, not bothered by the grim prophecies of superstitious locals, finishes his curry and chung and retires to the room he rented upstairs. He's so excited. Tomorrow, it will finally be time.
Wait, is this
All
guy's
his
gonna be
months of
the
training will
shy
pay
guy?
off. He will climb to Mount Everest's peak. It would be an achievement to last a whole lifetime.
You telling me Shy Guy existed? Well, I still don't know if this is canon, but you're telling me Shy Guy existed because this guy climbed the Mount Everest?
One he would never ever
We'll
forget.
see, we'll see.
No matter how much he wants to. The next day, the tip of his ice axe cleaves into the mountainside as he grunts, strains, and pulls himself up another few feet. He's about 2,000 meters up, and every additional meter is fighting him. It's the bitterest cold he's ever known, a freeze so deep it makes his incredibly expensive thermal locking clothes feel like he's wearing wet, one-ply toilet paper. But the pain doesn't matter. The cold
This is one of
doesn't
those
matter.
adrenaline that
He
you don't
finds it
want to
exhilarating. Of course,
do,
just as the
you
old
know?
man had warned, death
climbing
could be
mountains,
waiting for him
jumping
on
off
this mountain.
planes.
But the truth is,
No,
the
thank
explorer
you.
has never felt more alive. He winches himself up a few feet more, trying to regulate his breathing as his icy fingers, wrapped in thick gloves, struggle to find purchase on what feels like a sheer cliff face. There are many times when he's supporting his
Yeah,
full
I'm
body
good
weight
with
with
that.
only his
Nope, I'm
hands.
good.
It often takes the kind of Herculean strength that only a lifetime of training can give you. After all, there's no room for error on Mount Everest. One wrong move, and you're either plummeting to your death or becoming a permanent frozen fixture of the mountainside. And because Everest is so dangerous, nobody comes to collect the bodies of dead mountaineering hopefuls. Their corpses, coated in often colorful winter jackets, litter the mountain. Some look at them as a tragic warning. Other, more morbid mountaineers use them as mile markers for their own more successful ascents. Whether
That
the
is
explorer
sick,
would be
bro.
lucky or become just another dead, frozen mile marker is still entirely up to chance. He climbs for a few more hours, pushing past his body's complaints, his physical limitations, until he reaches a well-earned plateau. Here, he establishes a small base camp and eats some of his rations. The area is thankfully guarded enough to keep out the worst of the sub-zero winds, so he can at least get some sleep without freezing to death. Mount Everest
At
cannot be
least.
conquered today, and even someone with the explorer's bravado wouldn't dare to try. But as he settles down to sleep for the night, he can't help but look up, and the enormity of what stands before him he finds utterly terrifying. The mountain just keeps going and going.
Bro, you seen those videos of the locals that works on like climbing, I think, Mount Everest? They pretty much carry the gear of like the visitors that want to climb the mountains. Like they got all these big tents and stuff like that, and then the locals carries it. Bro, those locals are crazy, crazy strong.
And going, stretching up into the misty heavens, like the tip would only be a short jump from the moon. For the first time, the explorer begins to genuinely wonder, will I scale this mountain? Or
Uh-oh.
will I die on it? What he never even considers is that there may be a third option that's
Trying to doubt.
so much worse.
He is trying to
Over the
doubt.
next few days, he keeps climbing further and further. Hundreds, then thousands of meters pass under him as he breaks past even the boundaries biology seemed to set for him. He's impossible to deter, an engine of pure burning willpower, going because he knows he cannot stop. Because he knows that if he throws in the towel now, it will have all been for nothing. He'll be just another failure,
There.
one speck
And he's
among
still gotta
billions.
climb down.
He'll have no meaning, no legacy.
Might as
He'll
well go
just
up,
be
right?
Another average Joe, forgotten. And that honestly scares him even more than the prospect of freezing to death up here. Eventually, even though it costs him almost everything to do it, he reaches 8,000 meters, an area
Death
known as
zone.
the Death Zone, where it's believed to be impossible for humans to acclimate.
Is it
This
because of
is
the
thin,
oxygen?
rarefied air that few have been permitted to
Yeah,
breathe.
the oxygen
And he's
gets
seen
thinner
so
the-
many brightly
the higher
colored
you
mile
get.
markers on the way to here. The ground is slippery, and the air chews into the explorer's skin, but he knows he's made it this far. Less than 1,000 meters from the peak now, he has almost conquered the mountain. So you can only imagine how surprised he feels when he sees another mountaineer walking down the side of the mountain towards him with an eerie kind of casualness. He's wearing standard mountain climbing
Well, I
gear,
feel like I
including
watched
white
this
thermal
SCP
pants and a hooded
I know
coat
this
zipped
SCP.
up to the chin. The explorer can't make out the stranger's face beyond the pair of thick, black goggles he's wearing over his eyes. What the hell is going
That's
on
a different
here?
SCP than zero.
The second the
That's not
stranger's eyes fall upon
096.
him, he feels a frightening sensation.
That's something
The bite of
else.
The cold is gone. The chilling winds can't reach him. Instead, he feels warm, cozy, and content, like he's sitting in front of a warm fire in a well-insulated log cabin. In any other circumstance, these sensations might be welcomed.
Yeah,
The
he's
seasoned
done.
mountaineer knows that this is actually one of the worst things you can feel. It means that death is creeping in, and your body is opening the front door and welcoming it. And if this stranger is causing that feeling, then one thing is certain. He's bad news. The explorer wants to turn and run, but he finds that he can't. It's
Where are you
almost
gonna
as though
run,
he's
bro?
frozen in place, entranced by the warm, inviting feeling that the other mountaineer seems to exude as he gets closer and closer. That's when the explorer notices something strange about him. Something is glowing through his goggles, like hot embers, burning a bright, luminous orange. Are those eyes? Dear God, are those his eyes? The explorer can feel their terrible stare, literally feel it.
Jeez.
It hurts to be looked at by this monster. Yes, that's what it is. A monster in the shape of a man. Why are you here, mortal? Comes a booming voice from the inhuman mountaineer.
Is that the king of Mount Everest?
Challenge me. The explorer can't form words. He's quaking, his body acknowledging the cold that his mind can't, as those two glowing eyes bore into him. Speak, the stranger commands. Who? What are you? The explorer forces out between chattering teeth. The stranger laughs. I am the king of the mountain.
He's the
Though to
king.
the SCP Foundation, he's better known as SCP-1529, and he's the
Yeah, I
worst
knew it was
possible
another-
thing you can
another
run into
SCP.
while trying to scale Mount Everest.
But where is
The explorer remembers
096?
his conversation with the old man in the tavern. The
Is he
question
gonna
asked,
turn
what will you say
that
when you're
to-
face to face with the king?
into
No foolish
096?
answer. I'll ask him for his crown. Now, really, truly face to face with the king of the mountain, all the poor terrified explorer can do is whimper and beg for mercy.
Ask for his crown, bro.
He says, the tears freezing on his cheeks as they fall. I just wanted to climb. The king of the mountain gives another booming laugh, his eyes burning. Then you will climb, he says, and climb, and climb, and climb. The king of the mountain must have wielded truly unspeakable power to do what he does next. With a simple nod, the explorer is suddenly hanging off of the mountainside, his fingers digging into the craggy rocks. The only thing supporting his weight. It was like being back at square one all over again, except with added pain, terror, and cold so deep he can feel his bones rattling. And all the while, he feels those eyes upon him, those burning, fiery eyes, staring with absolute malice. He keeps climbing. Every time he reaches a plateau, a place where he might camp and find even momentary comfort, the king of the mountain is already waiting there, staring that horrible stare. And just like that, the explorer was climbing again.
Oh
wind
my
whipping
God,
against him like
that
40
is
lashes from a
torture.
cat o' nine tails. That, coupled with the endless strain of the climb on his muscles, is the worst agony he's ever felt. And yet,
I bet,
he
bro.
never dies, even though he hasn't eaten in days, weeks, months, years.
Yeah, that
He
is
never,
straight
ever
torture.
dies. He just fulfills
He just
the same
keeps
torturous
climbing.
loop over and over again.
Bro, you just fall.
It's like the king of the mountain is just keeping him alive for his own amusement, a toy that's impossible to break.
This guy is
But
sick.
while the explorer never breaks, as time goes on and the torments never cease, he does begin to change, like rock being molded by the
Oh,
tide.
he's changing.
First,
He's
from
changing.
the endless stress, his hair falls out. His skin goes pale from the lack of sun. His body becomes thin and wiry from
He's turning
starvation
into
and malnourishment. The endless
SCP-096.
physical strain even warps his limbs. His arms and legs begin to stretch, his body becoming elongated and grotesque.
Ugh.
All the way through this horrific, dehumanizing ordeal, the king of the mountain stares at him.
Damn, I can't
One
remember
day,
his.
the explorer,
King of the
now
Mountain's
changed,
crazy, bro.
reaches a plateau, and as can be expected, the king of the mountain stares at him with his burning eyes. The explorer cowers and covers his face with his hands, sobbing from exhaustion. He just wants the king of the mountain to look away, to leave him be. He babbles incoherently. He doesn't want to be seen anymore. His pain simply makes the
Cause
king
they
of the
got
mountain
them eyes,
laugh.
bro.
I gave you your wish, the Mountain King says, his voice oozing with contempt. You climbed, didn't you? You thought that your climbing would elevate you, make you more than human. But now,
Well, it
you're
didn't.
so much less. Our business concludes here. I'm tired of playing with you. And with that, the king is gone. The explorer is alone, stranded among the snow and the whipping winds of the death zone, but very much alive. He's finally able to go. At long
You're
last,
free.
after what felt like an eternity, he's escaped. When the explorer arrives in the village again, he's not the explorer at all. It's been years since he went missing on the mountain. The old
Yeah, he
man
looked
who had
like
warned
Groot
him
now.
not to go up onto Mount Everest had passed peacefully in the interim.
And
The
how
other
long was he
members of his
climbing?
small village would not be afforded the same luxury. Instead, the explorer stumbled back through the village limits, still covering his face. The only sounds he can hear are the wailing wind and his own pitiful sobbing. Everything hurts. He's so terribly afraid. He needs somebody to help him. Why will nobody help him? The sun begins to rise, and the village shakes itself awake. People leave their homes
Oh,
to go
that
about their
village
daily
is done.
tasks. None of them are expecting to see a monster loping through their streets. A pale, gangling monstrosity,
Yeah,
stretched
they are
and
done.
hairless. It engenders a mix of fear and curiosity as it stumbles around, audibly sobbing with a loud, warped voice. It's like nothing any of them have ever seen before, like something out of a myth or a folk tale. But for the monster that was once the explorer, it's so much worse. At first, he thinks that the villagers might be there to help him. But
Ugh.
then, he sees their eyes.
Doesn't
Same
even-
intense,
oh.
burning fire pit orange as the king of the mountain.
Oh, he got
That same horrible
PTSD.
gaze that the explorer thought he'd escaped when he left the mountain. The gaze that meant pain, torment, and madness. Even when he tries to cover his face, when he wails at them to
Still
go away
see
in
him?
words
Oh,
that make
no.
sense to no one but him, he
Oh,
can still
no.
feel those terrible eyes on him. Is he still on the mountain? Is he still at the mercy of the Mountain King? Are these all just illusions or projections, another awful trick? What did he ever do to deserve this kind of torment? Was the crime of wanting to climb a damn mountain worth this kind of everlasting suffering? Did it earn him the gaze of all these monstrous eyes? The explorer begins to feel his anguish being replaced.
Looks
by
like he's
another
wearing a
feeling,
crown with it,
rapidly
like with his
rising
fingers up
rage,
like that,
the
right?
kind of pure, blistering hatred that inexorably leads to one result: violence. First, he screams.
There it
then
is.
they scream.
There
And
it
finally,
is. Yep.
the killing
Oh.
begins. The creature that had once been the explorer leaves no
Rip.
stone unturned. Even when they try to run away, he still
Rip.
feels their eyes on him.
Look at
He
that
needs
face,
to kill
bro.
them all, to annihilate them quickly, leave no trace. It's the only way he can feel anything close to at peace again. It becomes a kind of terrible chain reaction. The sound of the horrors going on in the street only entices more to come outside and see what's going on, to look at the creature causing all this carnage, to see its face. They have no idea that this very action is dooming them. And within the hour, the village is empty, save for one creature. The creature that had once been
Yeah,
the explorer,
he cleaned house.
now just afraid, confused, and alone. He will always be alone. The anomaly that will soon be known as SCP-096 simply bows its head and weeps. If you want to support our important mission,
Okay. Well, that was the origin or sad origin of 096. It didn't really get me with the feels, but you know, it's sad, but my question is, why is the Mountain King, was it King of the Mountain? He should be a 001 proposal, man, if he can do this to like normal human. He pretty much made an SCP out of him. And at least like if this is canon, it's alright. Like, you know, makes sense for like how 096 turned out. Like him climbing the mountain over and over again, like pretty much made him skinny. It stretched his limbs and stuff like that. Like he was not like he couldn't feel hunger, but at the same time he was deteriorating, right? And him covering his face because like he don't want to see the eyes of the Mountain King also makes sense. Him crying and stuff like that. Yeah, this is not bad for origin story. I like it, but it could be better. Yeah, this one's SCP-096, Sad Origin Story by Dr. Bob. Alright.